So if I could follow just one push workout for the rest of my life, it would be the session I'm performing today. So if you want to stimulate the most amount of growth in your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps, then give this workout a try. Exercise number one is, of course, always going to be a barbell bench press. So currently on the warm-up, we've got 100 kilos. This is usually where I start to build the confidence for the bench press. Because I load on 60, I load on 100, and I just really try, my mind is just focused on making 100 as explosive as possible. So that's what we're going to do. 120 kilos. 140. For as long as I've been going to the gym, a barbell bench press has been my single most favorite exercise ever. And that's going on 12 years of training. I even think that a barbell bench press is one of the reasons as to why I was able to stay as consistent as I was. It got me through every single leg day. It got me through every single back day. I don't really like going to the gym outside of any other day other than a push day, or at least I didn't for a very long time. So whenever I was killing myself with back squats, or I was doing rows, or God forbid lat pull downs, I always thought I just have to get through this, and then it's one more day or it's 2 more days until I get to bench again. So that's why I got as strong at it as I did. It's because I just loved it, and I was always able to bring my best performance to it. So that begs the question that if you are to do barbell bench press, which I'd hope you would after my recommendation in this video, as your first exercise at each chest workout that you do, what rep range should you strive to hit? And I'm always going to say anywhere in the region of 4 to 6 reps per set. I'm doing 3 today, but anything in and around that slightly north or slightly south of 5 reps is always going to be a good ballpark to aim for. That's what I've done for 12 years, resulted in me hitting, albeit not pause, but hitting a 180 kilo bench press. So those lower rep ranges where you're using heavier weight, they really are the rep ranges that will advance your strength the most. Strength is a skill, you know, so the more often that you're using heavier weight, the more accustomed you're getting to moving heavier weight, the more you're training the neurons to fire in a certain way to be able to shift the most amount of weights. So definitely, if you're doing barbell bench press first, go for heavier sets of lower repetitions. I, for one, used to think that the abundance of information on social media about fitness, about lifting, about fat loss was all in all a good thing. But when you started to see the scrutiny, or when I started to see the scrutiny, that perfectly good exercises like barbell bench press came under as a result of this abundance of information, of creators constantly needing to come up with a brand new and controversial take because it will get the most reach. That's when I started to think a little bit differently about it. And there definitely comes a point of information saturation where everything additionally that you're taking on board is actually not improving your experience, it's worsening it. So with a barbell bench press, the scrutiny that it came under was that because your hands are in a fixed position, that your arms almost can't converge or come together as they would with like a dumbbell bench press. But when you think about the additional range of motion that occurs for your hands to come together at the top in a dumbbell press versus where they'll finish up in a barbell press, it's like the difference between your hands finishing here versus your hands finishing there. But for that entire range of motion to get to that point, you're still getting pretty much everything that the chest has to offer. So what I'm about to do here for my last set is a powerlifting concept called a back off set. Now you don't have to do this, you can just do your straight sets of 5-6 repetitions. What I'm going to do is peel the weight back by about 15-20%, and for my last set drill slightly more repetitions out of it, but using a weight that I'm going to be able to command much more control over. My execution is going to be better. Essentially what you can do is that you can do maybe 2 sets of your 5 to 6 heavy repetitions, peel the weight back by 15 to 20% for your last set, and just drill out possibly a set of 8 to 10. The second exercise in my ideal push workout is going to be none other than a dumbbell incline bench press. So if you are worried with the barbell bench press, which you shouldn't be, about that lack of your hands coming half an inch together at the top, you can very easily solve that by, on top of your barbell bench press, including a dumbbell press variation. It's not the reason why I do dumbbell incline. I do dumbbell incline just because I don't like to do barbell bench first, flat barbell bench first, then an incline barbell bench second. I do like the variation of changing up the equipment that I'm using. But the second benefit of doing a dumbbell incline, the hint is in the incline. It's going to hit a little bit more of the upper chest in comparison to something like a flat barbell bench press. So the third and final chest exercise of an ideal push workout is going to be a high to low cable fly. So contrary to the high nature of the starting position of this fly, it's actually going to allow you to hit a little bit more of the lower section of the chest in comparison to what intuitively you would think would be the higher or the inclined portion of the chest or the upper portion of the chest. I do prefer to a dumbbell fly just in terms of it tends to make more sense, the resistance of it. So when it comes to performing a high to low cable fly, you've got a choice of one of two feet stances. Number one is my preference. It's the staggered stance, so it's going to be 1 foot in front of the other. I prefer this because I feel as though I'm able to plant myself a little bit firmer, which allows me to exert a little bit more force, especially when the weight gets heavy or those reps start to get difficult. Alternatively, you can put both feet side by side and you can lean into it a little bit more. I just find that this is a little bit less stable for me. Not that that's the be all and end all, it might be the thing that's most comfortable to you, so if it is, absolutely do it. But what you could alternatively do is maybe you find having 2 feet side by side a little bit more comfortable for you. So you could start the first half of your repetitions with 2 feet side by side, but as it gets more difficult, you need to lean into it a little bit more and you need to plant yourself a little bit more stably, if that's a word, or you need to have a little bit more stability in the feet. You can then move into the staggered stance and finish off those difficult grinding repetitions. It seems as though every time it comes to training side delts, I'm doing a different exercise or have a different explanation for why I'm doing a dumbbell ladder raise over a cable ladder raise, or a cable ladder raise over a dumbbell ladder raise, or a machine ladder raise over both. But today's selection, which is probably my most common selection, I mean 3/4 of the time I will be doing a dumbbell ladder raise for my side delts. Accessibility is one thing. You're never not going to have a gym where you can't do a dumbbell ladder raise. So that's one very, very relevant aspect of why I would personally include this exercise in your push workout. So dumbbell ladder raise is one of these exercises where you're probably not going to be able to complete a full repetition and then you're not going to be able to do any more after that. There will always be, it's like a diminishing margin of return that you get from each repetition. So you will reach a point where you can complete only one final full repetition. But what you can do to inject a little bit more intensity, a little bit more stimulus into a dumbbell ladder raise, as opposed to just stopping your set when you do your final full repetition, is that you can continue to keep going while there's some range of motion that you can access. So you won't be able to bring it all the way up to the top. What you will be able to do is possibly bring it halfway, maybe halfway again, maybe a little bit less than halfway, and maybe to the point where you're literally just able to do that much. So keep going with the dumbbell ladder raise. It's going to be something that's very difficult to add an additional full repetition to, just because your side delts are so small. And if you're to add 1 kilo to a 10 kilo lateral raise, that's a 10% increase. And 10% increases don't come too easily. So what you'll likely have to do is implement those partial repetitions to build up the strength over the course of several weeks and months to eventually be able to do one full additional repetition. So with a dumbbell lateral raise, you want to lead with your elbow as opposed to your wrist. So what that means is that at the top of the movement, your elbow is actually in a higher position than your hand and your wrist is. Whereas what you'll see most people doing, most people do the inverse of that. Their wrist comes above their elbow and it's almost just kind of looks like a standing dumbbell reverse fly. So think about leading the movement with your elbows. If it helps to imagine as though you're holding 2 jugs of water, and as you come up to that top position, you're pouring out those 2 jugs of water. So remember, elbows at all times above your wrists. So lead the movement with your elbows as opposed to leading the movement with your wrists. For triceps, you probably know what I'm going to say by now. We want one push down or just tricep pressing variation from in front of the body, so in this position, and then we want one that's above the body. So the one that we're going to do in front of the body is one of my all-time favorites, which is a straight bar tricep pushdown. Can you do this with the rope? Yes, you can. Can you do whatever fucking attachment that you like? Yes, you can. So the final tricep exercise of the session needs no explanation or introduction. It is, of course, going to be a standing overhead tricep extension. So this is going to be for the long head of the tricep. Realistically, you're going to be hitting certain portions of all parts of the triceps in every movement that you do. But this one's going to, you'll feel it yourself when your triceps in that overhead position, especially when you do a weighted exercise overhead. You just start to feel a nice little stretch down your triceps. So that's what we're targeting. An alternative you could do would be like an overhead single arm dumbbell tricep extension. Again, I just prefer the cable in this instance. So there you have it. The push workout that I would follow if I could follow just one for the rest of my life. So we have the standard bowl of protein porridge, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, grapes, washed down with a post-workout can of Monster. So go ahead, give that workout a try in your next push session. Take faith in the fact that that is the tried and tested and most frequent push session that the Vanilla Gorilla himself has performed for most of his 12 years in the gym. So if you're picking up anything from My Protein, code Sean, 10% off. If you're picking up anything from Gymshark, code Sean 10. And if you want to know the pull workout that I would follow, if I could follow just one for the rest of my life, then I suggest you watch this video. Adios.